A wealthy woman was desperate to see her sad little boy smile again. She offered $1.2 million, not for a doctor, but for a balloon man. What started as a simple visit turned into something far deeper. But what the balloon man did next, no one could have imagined. Stay tuned because you're about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. It was a bright spring afternoon in Charleston, South Carolina. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and the birds chirped happily in the trees. But inside the Dawson mansion, everything was quiet, too quiet. Jessica Dawson stood silently by the tall glass window in the living room. Her long brown hair was tied back in a loose bun, and her hands trembled as she held a cup of tea she hadn't touched in hours. Her eyes, swollen from many sleepless nights, stayed fixed on the backyard. There, sitting alone under a tree, was her 10-year-old son, Lucas. He wasn't playing. He wasn't reading. He wasn't doing anything. He just sat there, legs crossed, staring at the grass beneath his feet. Jessica's heart ached. Lucas had once been full of life, always laughing, always talking, always running around the house making airplane sounds. He used to love coloring, playing soccer, and riding his scooter. He even gave each of his toys a name. He was the kind of boy who could find joy in the smallest things. But now he was different. All of that changed 6 months ago, the day his father, Jonathan Dawson, died in a private plane crash while on a business trip to New York. It was sudden, tragic, and unexpected. Jonathan had been more than a husband to Jessica. He had been her best friend. But to Lucas, Jonathan was everything. A hero, a protector, a best friend who never broke a promise. And when the news came that Jonathan wouldn't be coming home, something in Lucas had broken too. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stopped. Stopped smiling. Stopped talking. Stopped feeling. Jessica had tried everything. Therapists, child psychologists, healing centers, books, music, games, nothing worked. She brought in specialists from all over the country. She spent sleepless nights reading parenting blogs, researching how to help grieving children. She hired a private counselor who visited the house twice a week. Still, Lucas didn't speak. Still, he didn't smile. And no matter how many times Jessica hugged him and whispered, "It's going to be okay," he never answered. Not even a nod. Jessica felt helpless. And guilty. Not because she wasn't trying, but because she had everything money could buy and yet couldn't bring back what truly mattered. That evening, after trying once again to get Lucas to join her for dinner, with no success, Jessica decided to go for a short drive to clear her head. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. She just picked up her purse, grabbed her car keys, and left the mansion. The streets of Charleston bustled with people enjoying the weather. Children were laughing, couples were holding hands, and a group of teenagers rode their bikes past her window. Jessica sighed and drove slowly down the main road, not really sure where she was headed. Then something bright and colorful caught her attention. It was a small crowd gathered near the corner of a busy grocery store. In the middle of the crowd stood a man with a wide smile and a red cap. He was holding a long balloon, twisting and shaping it with lightning speed into the form of a giant purple dog. The children clapped. Some giggled with joy as he handed them balloons shaped like giraffes, butterflies, and swords. One little girl twirled in place holding a flower balloon, her laughter pure and infectious. Jessica pulled over and watched. She didn't know why, but something about that man caught her heart. His smile was real. His joy was real. And the way he made children light up, it reminded her of something. It reminded her of Lucas. Lucas back when he used to smile. Back when he would hold her hand and ask for a balloon every Sunday after church. Back when life was simple and full of color. Without thinking, Jessica stepped out of her car and walked toward the man. "Excuse me," she said softly, as the last child left with a balloon butterfly. The balloon vendor turned and smiled. "Yes, ma'am. Want a balloon animal? I've got everything from tigers to T-Rex." Jessica shook her head gently. "No, I don't want a balloon. I want to talk." The man looked at her closely. He noticed her pale face, her red eyes, and the way she held her purse tightly. "My name's Ray," he said kindly, wiping his hands on a towel. "Ray Thompson. I'm the balloon man around here." "I'm Jessica," she said. "Jessica Dawson." Ray nodded. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Dawson. What can I do for you?" Jessica hesitated. "I saw the way you made those children laugh," she said quietly. "My son, he hasn't smiled in 6 months. He hasn't said a word. He's only 10. Ray's smile faded a little. He looked into her eyes and saw something he recognized: pain. Jessica took a deep breath, then said something that startled even herself. "I want to hire you," she said. "Not for a birthday. Not for an event. I want you to help my son smile again. And if you do, I'll give you $1.2 million. Ray froze. He blinked. "I'm sorry, did you just say?" "Yes," Jessica nodded, her voice steady. $1.2 million. But it's not really about the money. It's about hope. And I'll pay anything for a little piece of that." Ray didn't know what to say. He had been twisting balloons on the streets for over 15 years. He had made thousands of children laugh. But no one had ever asked him for something so serious or offered that kind of money. Still, Ray didn't say yes immediately. He looked at her and said softly, "Let me meet the boy first. If I can't make him smile, I won't take a dime." Jessica looked surprised. "You mean you'll try for free?" Ray nodded. "A real smile can't be bought. But maybe it can be shared." And with that, Jessica knew she had found something rare. Not just a balloon man, but a man who still believed in heart. The next morning, Jessica stood in the front doorway of the Dawson mansion, nervously checking her watch for the 5th time in 5 minutes. At exactly 9 a.m., a small red truck pulled up outside the tall black gates. It had a painted sign on the side that read, "Ray's Balloon Wonders, smiles in every shape." Jessica stepped outside as the gate opened slowly. Ray Thompson, dressed in his usual red cap, blue suspenders, and a yellow checkered shirt, hopped down from the truck. In his hand was a large transparent plastic bag filled with balloons of every color imaginable: long ones, round ones, twisty ones. Jessica tried to smile. "Thank you for coming." Ray nodded politely. "Thank you for trusting me. Is he inside?" "No," Jessica said softly, leading him through the wide courtyard. "He's in the garden. That's where he spends most of his time now, under the tree." Ray looked around the property as they walked. The place was massive. Marble steps, tall pillars, trimmed bushes, and a grand fountain in the center of the driveway. But despite the beauty, there was a cold silence in the air, as if the house itself was grieving. They walked through a glass door into the backyard. The morning sun bathed the garden in warm gold light. At the far end of the lawn, under the shade of a tall magnolia tree, Lucas sat alone on a wooden bench. His shoulders were slouched, his eyes fixed on something invisible. He didn't even look up when Ray and Jessica stepped into view. Jessica whispered, "I'll give you some space." Ray gave her a small nod, then slowly walked toward the boy, careful not to move too quickly or startle him. He stopped a few feet away and crouched beside a small flower bed. He began to speak gently. "You know, when I was a kid, I thought flowers could talk," Ray said with a warm smile. "Especially the yellow ones. I used to sit and ask them questions like, 'Why do you always face the sun?' And I swear they told me, 'Because the sun makes us feel warm inside.'" Lucas didn't respond. His gaze remained locked on the grass. Ray reached into his bag and pulled out a long green balloon. With a few quick twists and turns, it became a small turtle with googly balloon eyes and tiny legs. He placed it gently on the ground beside the boy. "I brought a friend," Ray said. "This is Oliver the turtle. He's very shy, like someone I know." Still no response. But Ray didn't seem discouraged. He sat down cross-legged on the grass, a little distance from the bench. "I know it's hard to talk when your heart feels heavy," he said slowly. "Sometimes it feels like the world is moving, but you're stuck in one place." Lucas blinked. That was the first sign of attention. Ray noticed it, but he didn't react too much. He just kept talking as if he were telling a story to the wind. "You know," Ray added, reaching into his bag again, Oliver has a superpower. He only shows it to people he trusts. He gently held up another balloon and shaped it into a bright yellow sun, placing it behind the turtle like a glowing shield.
See, he said.
He carries sunshine on his back. That way, even if the world gets dark, he never loses the light. Lucas finally turned his head, just a little. It was small, barely noticeable. But to Ray, it was everything. He smiled to himself and pulled out a tiny hand pump and began inflating another balloon. This time, it was a giraffe. I once met a boy who said giraffes are proof that it's okay to be different, Ray continued. He said, their necks are long, but that just means they see more of the world. Lucas's lips moved slightly. Ray paused. It was a whisper, soft and raspy, but it was there. My dad liked giraffes, Lucas said, barely audible. Ray froze. He looked up gently and said, that makes perfect sense. Smart man. Giraffes are good listeners too. Jessica, watching from behind the window inside, pressed her hand over her heart. She hadn't heard her son's voice in over half a year. Her eyes welled with tears. Lucas still didn't smile. But he had spoken. To a stranger. To the balloon man. Ray didn't push any further. He knew better. Children like Lucas were like seeds after a long winter. They didn't bloom from shouting. They grew from patience, warmth, and quiet understanding. So he leaned back and looked up at the sky. You know what I wish, Lucas? He said softly. I wish we could build a balloon that could fly all the way to the clouds and wave at the angels. Lucas looked at him again, his eyes slower now, softer. Would it fly high? The boy asked. Ray smiled. Only if someone like you helped me build it. And for the first time in months, Lucas didn't look away. The next morning, Ray was back again. But this time, he didn't bring just his usual bag of balloons. He brought a large cardboard box, taped on all sides and covered in hand-drawn stars and smiley faces. The box was a little worn out, but Ray carried it like it was full of treasure. Jessica met him at the garden gate. What's in the box? She asked, curious. Ray winked. Today, we're not just making balloons. We're going to build something big. Something magical. Jessica smiled, though her heart still held caution. He's in the garden, same place. Ray nodded and walked slowly across the lawn. The morning was quiet. A soft breeze blew through the trees, and the birds chirped above like they were waiting to see what would happen next. Lucas sat on the same wooden bench, knees pulled close to his chest. He saw Ray coming and glanced briefly at the box in his hand. Without a word, Ray sat on the grass in front of him and opened the box. Inside were all kinds of supplies, light plastic tubes, colorful tape, small wheels, strings, and dozens of balloons, big and small. Lucas blinked. What's that? Ray grinned. Our invention. Remember what I said yesterday? I want to build a balloon that can fly all the way to the clouds. You asked if it would fly high. Well, let's find out together. Lucas sat up a little straighter. Ray pulled out a marker and drew a name on a big sheet of paper. Sky Hero. That's the name, Ray said proudly. You and me, co-inventors. For the first time since the loss of his father, something lit up in Lucas's eyes. He got off the bench slowly and came to sit on the grass beside Ray. He didn't say much, but when Ray handed him a balloon and asked, "Can you hold this while I tie the string?" Lucas nodded. When asked, "Do you think this should go here or here?" Lucas pointed without hesitation. They spent 2 full hours on the grass, laughing softly, talking a little, and building what looked like a strange balloon robot with wings made from plastic and paper fans. Jessica watched them from inside, her hands shaking, her heart pounding. She had prayed for months to see her son like this again, curious, engaged, alive. And now he was talking to a man he had only met yesterday because that man had chosen to speak to him like a friend, not a problem. After a while, Ray stood up and announced, "Okay, Inventor Lucas, it's time for our first test launch." Lucas stood too, his eyes bright with nervous excitement. They placed Sky Hero carefully on a smooth stone path. The balloon wings were filled with helium, and the small wheels sat ready. Ray bent down and whispered to the balloon robot, "You better not embarrass us in front of your creator." Lucas laughed. A soft, real laugh. Jessica, standing behind a tree, gasped aloud and covered her mouth. It was the first time she'd heard her son laugh in 6 long months. Ray stood back and said, 3, 2, 1, go. Lucas gently pushed Sky Hero forward. The balloon robot rolled ahead, faster than expected, and lifted a few inches off the ground before wobbling and crashing into a flower pot. Lucas burst into louder laughter. He crashed. Ray pretended to fall over. Oh no! Sky Hero's first mission failed. But he's brave. We'll fix him up. Lucas nodded. We'll make version 2. Stronger wings. Ray smiled proudly. Now you're thinking like a true inventor. As they gathered the pieces and talked about how to rebuild it better, Lucas suddenly turned and said, Ray, did you have a dad? Ray's smile softened. He looked into Lucas's eyes and said, Yeah, I did. He died when I was your age too. I stopped talking for a while, just like you. Lucas looked down. Did it stop hurting? Ray was quiet for a moment. Then he answered gently, It didn't stop hurting. But one day, I realized he wouldn't want me to be sad forever. He would have wanted me to laugh again. So I started making balloons and it helped. Lucas was quiet too. But after a moment he whispered, I miss mine. Ray placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. I know you do. And it's okay to miss him. But guess what? Every time you smile, a piece of him smiles too. Lucas nodded slowly. He didn't say much after that. But as they sat together under the tree, surrounded by balloon pieces and plans for Sky Hero 2.0, Jessica knew something had changed. Her son had taken his first real step back to life. Over the next few days, the garden became something special. Every morning after breakfast, Lucas would wait under the magnolia tree, sitting cross-legged with a notebook in his hand. That notebook had quickly become a sketchpad for all the wild ideas he and Ray came up with. He called it the Sky Hero Journal. Ray arrived every day like clockwork, bringing balloons, glue, markers, and strange little parts he found from garage sales or toy shops. They built, they tested, they failed, and they laughed. Sky Hero had already reached version 4.0, and this one had wings made from old paper fans and tiny flashing lights that blinked in red and blue. Lucas was smiling more often now. His laughter wasn't forced, and his voice had returned. But one quiet Saturday morning, something changed. Ray arrived with a special gift, a miniature helmet made out of cardboard with the words, Inventor Captain Lucas, written in red marker across the front. He had even drawn stars and lightning bolts around the edges. Lucas loved it. He put it on and gave a salute like a true balloon commander. Today's mission, Ray said, is the high-speed field test. Lucas laughed. He's gonna fly so fast. We'll need goggles. Jessica watched them from the back patio with a cup of tea in her hand, her heart overflowing. This was more than she had hoped for. Ray wasn't just helping Lucas heal, he was becoming part of the family. Then, the unexpected happened. A sleek black SUV pulled up outside the gate. Jessica's smile slowly faded. She wasn't expecting visitors. The gate opened, and a tall, sharply dressed man stepped out. His face was serious, his hair neatly combed, and his steps confident. He wore a silver wristwatch and dark sunglasses. It was David Dawson, Jonathan's younger brother. Lucas's uncle. Jessica met him halfway across the courtyard, her voice firm but calm. David, why are you here? David removed his glasses and looked around the property. I heard about what you've been doing. And I heard you paid a balloon vendor over $1 million to cheer up Lucas. Jessica folded her arms.
Who told you that?
Someone from your lawyer's office, he said. You can't hide money moves like that, Jess. The family is talking.
She sighed.
It's not what you think. He frowned. It never is. But really, $1.2 million? On a man who ties balloons and tells jokes. Jessica's eyes hardened. He's not just a balloon man. He brought my son back. David shook his head. You're making emotional decisions with huge amounts of money. That's dangerous. Jessica stepped closer. Lucas hasn't spoken to anyone in months. Ray didn't just bring balloons, he brought healing. He gave my son joy again. But David wasn't convinced. I want to see Lucas, he said. Jessica hesitated, then nodded slowly. He's in the backyard. The two of them walked around the house. As soon as Lucas saw his uncle, his happy expression changed. His smile faded. His hands dropped to his side. David crouched slightly and smiled politely. Hey, buddy, it's been a while. Lucas didn't respond. Ray noticed the tension and stood quietly beside the boy, saying nothing. David glanced at the balloon robot lying on the grass. So, this is what you've been doing? Lucas nodded slightly. David chuckled, without humor. That's cute. But don't you think it's time to stop playing with balloons and go back to real life? Lucas looked down. Jessica's jaw tightened. David, enough. But Lucas did something that surprised everyone. He looked up, eyes clear, and said firmly, Ray is not just a balloon man. He listens. He stays. And he helped me laugh when no one else did. David blinked. Lucas continued, voice steady. When Dad died, you didn't come. You didn't call. Not once. But Ray did. Every single day. Jessica felt tears sting her eyes. David looked caught off guard. For once, he had no sharp reply. Ray gently placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder. Let's not worry about people who don't understand. Let's keep building Sky Hero. Lucas nodded, wiping a tear from his cheek, but not letting it fall. Jessica turned to David. Now you've heard him. You can go. David looked at them for a long moment, then quietly walked away. As the gate closed behind him, the garden seemed to breathe again. Jessica came over and pulled Lucas into a hug. You are so brave, she whispered. Lucas leaned into her. I just told the truth. Ray knelt beside them. You've got more courage than most grown-ups I know, kid. Then Lucas smiled. Not because of a balloon. Not because of a joke. But because he had finally found his voice again, and he wasn't afraid to use it. The next morning arrived with golden sunshine, light wind, and something rare in the Dawson household, excitement. It was Sky Hero launch day. Lucas was up before the sun. He was dressed in his inventor outfit, blue jeans, a red hoodie, and the cardboard helmet Ray had made for him that proudly read, Inventor Captain Lucas. The garden had been transformed into a celebration zone. Colorful streamers lined the fences, a small table held cupcakes and juice boxes, and a bright sign read, Sky Hero 5.0, ready for takeoff. Jessica had invited a few close neighbors and friends from Lucas's old school. Even the local news station had shown up after someone anonymously tipped them off about a boy and a balloon robot who came back to life together. Ray arrived with his little red truck, looking both proud and nervous. In his hands, he carried the final version of Sky Hero, taller, sleeker, with silver wings and flashing blue lights. The balloon robot had a propeller at the back, a tiny camera in its chest, and a parachute folded neatly under its arms. Lucas ran up to him. He looks amazing, Ray. He's perfect. Ray smiled and knelt beside him. He's only perfect because you never gave up on him. As people gathered, the news reporter stepped forward. A young woman with curly brown hair and a big camera crew behind her smiled at them. Can we ask a few questions? She said kindly. Jessica nodded, holding Lucas's hand gently. Of course. The reporter faced the camera. We're here live at the Dawson family estate in Charleston, where 10-year-old Lucas Dawson is about to launch a homemade balloon robot into the sky, a project that brought him back to life after the tragic loss of his father 6 months ago. She turned to Ray. And this is Ray Thompson, the balloon artist who helped make it happen. Mr. Thompson, we've heard rumors that you were paid $1.2 million to help this family. Is that true? Ray looked into the camera, then turned to Lucas, then to Jessica. He took a breath. No, he said clearly. I wasn't paid $1. I was offered the money, yes, but I told Jessica I didn't want it, not unless I earned the smile first. And when Lucas smiled, that was the only payment I needed. A wave of emotion rolled through the crowd. Even the camera crew paused for a moment. Jessica stepped forward, holding something in her hand. Ray, she said softly, I respect your heart, but I still want to give you something. She handed him an envelope. Ray opened it slowly. Inside was a business deed, a storefront lease, fully paid for, in the heart of Charleston's historic district. He looked up in shock. "It's yours," Jessica said. "A real balloon shop. A place for children to laugh. A place for healing." Ray was speechless. He stared at the paper, his eyes beginning to water. I don't know what to say." Lucas hugged him tightly. "Say yes." Ray chuckled through tears. "Yes, Captain Lucas. Yes." Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. Lucas stood beside Sky Hero, now sitting proudly on a launch platform they had built together. He raised a walkie-talkie and said with a grin, "This is Inventor Lucas. Sky Hero 5.0 is ready for takeoff." Ray replied with his own walkie-talkie. "Copy that. Wind conditions perfect. Let's launch hope into the sky." Everyone counted down together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lucas pushed the big red button. Sky Hero whirred, the propeller spinning. With a sudden lift, the balloon robot rose into the air, wobbling at first, then soaring higher and higher, the silver wings glinting in the sun. The crowd gasped, then cheered. The robot flew above the trees, past the rooftops, and into the wide blue sky, carrying a message that Ray had written and taped to its leg. "To anyone who's lost their smile, don't give up. It's still inside you." Jessica watched through tears. This wasn't just a launch. This was a goodbye to pain. This was a welcome to life. As the final moments of the flight faded into the sky, Lucas turned to his mother and whispered, "I think Dad saw that." Jessica knelt down, kissed his forehead, and said, "I know he did." And right beside them, Ray stood quietly, his heart full. He had arrived as a balloon vendor, but he was leaving that day as part of a miracle. That brings us to the end of this video. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Thanks for watching.